Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this council special session to order. The discussion topics are the sale of approximately 35 acres of city-owned property at 1300 Castor Road, described as tax lot number 13249, map number 4N1W-9-00101. And then tax account number 13215, map number 4N1W-N-00101. And at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and recess this special session. And then we're going to go into that gavel in probably. Yeah. For a public hearing. Okay, now we'll call this council public hearing to order. It is Tuesday, August 27th. The time is 6:01 p.m. And the topic of this is the sale of approximately 35 acres of city-owned property at 1300 Castor Road, described as tax lot number 13249, map number 4N1W-N-00101. And tax account number 13215, map number 4N1W-9-00101. And with that, I will turn it over to, do I go ahead and open up for public comment first, or
No, we're going to do a
staff report?
Yeah, we'll do the staff report to start off.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep.
So if someone was to look at those tax account numbers and go to the assessor and look at the map, they would see parcels a lot larger than 35 acres. Well, this is kind of weird. What's going on? And so the property line for this parcel still needs to be created or situated. And that's not a surprise because it is embodied in the purchase and sale agreement under section 2. So it is a concept and an approximation at this point. And because of that, I thought it was probably a good idea to talk about that, so everybody's kind of aware of those circumstances. So I just made a couple of slides to help explain this a little bit here. Perfect. And if you could get that to be full screen, thank you. So on the left side, that is the parcelization framework plan that we did about 3 years ago. And then the one on the right is kind of the concept. And then the next slide, which we'll look at shortly, is just a closer view of the parcel to be purchased. So I'm going to start with the parcelization plan. Now, the parcelization plan is a guide. It's not the gospel. But it is something that we want to look at when we're making decisions on this property. And so we're also going to be talking about the PGE parcel. That's what this red one is, because it's part of the equation for providing power to the site. PGE currently has a substation. It's an old, antiquated one with an easement. That is a very unusual circumstance for them. I think it's the only easement they have. Usually they own the property and they need a much larger size than they have. So that's why we're talking about the PGE stuff in conjunction with the Project Arcadia stuff. But even back in 21, we were aware of the PGE parcel, and you can't see the lines too well, but that's sort of in here. And then the parcelization plan also contemplated a large parcel for the mill here, which looks pretty similar to that. There is this conceptual parcel in here that's going to be a part of this, and that was really embodied in this plan. There's these smaller parcels, but they could be assembled for a larger purpose if that need was evident. And I believe it is here because that's what the Project Arcadia folks want. The other thing I want to talk about is access, because this is important for some of the decision making in creating this parcel for Project Arcadia. So we have Castor Road. That's a public right of way from Old Portland Road. So that's clear. It's public right of way. It's there. And if we go to the parcelization plan, there is this road going southward, and that provides access to the ACSP parcel, known affectionately to some as the Pot Farm property. And that also hopefully will provide access to the Port of St. Helens property down here. And then I also want to point out access to the north part of the site. You see a conceptual street connecting to the good old grid of the St. Helens, original St. Helens subdivision, but also a potential linkage down here. There's a right-of-way posed in there, at least conceptually proposed. So let's look at this concept a little bit closer. So as I mentioned, this red piece is the PGE parcel. And I believe that ultimately this parcel will be 50 feet northward than shown here. Again, the tentative nature of what we're dealing with right now. And then the white parcel is the ACSP, otherwise known as the Pot Farm parcel. And then the green is Project Arcadia. Now, the easement that goes this way that provides access to the parcel in white here will be disrupted. And so there'll be a little bit of stuff needed there. But we also need to think about access to this northern portion of the site. So here, if you had really good vision, you would see that there's a public right-of-way that's proposed here. And when we were taking a closer look at this site, there's the way stations and stuff, and like, well, that's really going to be a conflict long term. But as part of creating this parcel, we're probably going to want some type of short-term access available, at least to the point where an improved access is figured out for the northern piece. So I just wanted to talk about the general options, just so you understand that. So one is at the end of the Castor Road right-of-way here, and then looping around kind of how it's conceptualized there. That avoids this large wetland complex here, but we do get into the way stations and stuff like that. So it's a little messy. Another potential route we have from Castor is this little road that exists here. And if you took a close look at the wetlands on here, which we did have delineated, you would see a little gap in this wetland complex. And that was a road that's been there. So it's a grandfathered impact. There's only about 23 feet or so between the fencing, and the road itself is gravel and I don't know, 15 feet or so wide. So those widths aren't really suitable for a grander industrial purpose, but it's the path of least resistance if we needed to widen in there. There would be some permitting for that because of the wetlands, but that's a potential. We also have some potential from the north, some of the numbered streets up here, but it is a little bit of an obstacle course because of the topography and wetlands. The main point I wanted to get across is we're probably going to want some type of easement that's temporary until something is more solidified for the northern portion of the site. And that would be something we would contemplate in the lot line adjustment to create that parcel. And then the numbered streets up here are 12th, 13th, or 14th. The red arrow is actually on 13th Street, just so people have the context. So the next slide, let's take a closer look at Project Arcadia parcel. Yeah, did you want me to do that, Lisa? Or?
Maybe just arrow down over on the left.
Oh, there it is. Perfect. Okay, so this is the parcel here. And this was a concept. The original line was drawn here. And when we kind of reviewed this, went out to the site and considered it, you'll see a redrawn boundary here. And again, we believe that this PG parcel will shift northward about 50 feet and be a little bit more within the historic parking lot area of the mill. I should note of an easement proposed along this side. That would be a route because they are not proposing to purchase the area between the railroad spur and the channel. So that would be one route to get through here. And then we also will have the road down here as well. I mentioned how this parcel will disrupt some of this access. We are proposing extending public right of way to a certain extent off of Castor here. That would provide access for the PGE parcel. And we're talking about the PGE parcel because it's very possible that we'll create both parcels at the same time. Because they're kind of tied at the hip. We wanted this to be figured out to help figure out the parcel for the mill proposal. And we've been talking about it for several years too anyways. There will be some shared utilities. For example, there's some infrastructure on this side of the tracks. So there'll be some easements, agreements like that. It'll be separated from the wastewater treatment pond. They'll still need an easement for that. But that's, little details for us to deal with. And that's essentially what I wanted to talk about, just so nobody's surprised about the state of the property and what we have to do to get to that point.
Thank you.
So we have Ashley Wygod and David Urbino, our legal counsels, on to go through the purchase and sale agreement and answer any questions you might have. And then after that, the resolution 2020 that authorizes, it's also any questions you have around that too. Could be
Well, and I thought what I saw in that purchase sale agreement is what Jacob was talking about, a lot about the shared utilities and stuff like that. In the purchase and sale agreement. So easements for that. So I
Great.
don't know, Ashley, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure, I would. Hi, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, I can't seem to turn on my video. It says the host, it says it's not working, but so I'll talk to you and maybe it'll appear. I apologize about that. So as you know, you're holding a public hearing regarding the sale of surplus real property as allowed under ORS 221.725. The city recorder has provided the notice that's required by ORS 221.725 subsection 2 and published that notice at least 5 days before the hearing. The resolution and the packet of information that you have provides some of the information as required by statute, but there's other information that's required to be disclosed by the city council during this public hearing and by the staff. So ORS 221.725 subsection 4, it requires the nature of the proposed sale and the general terms thereof, including an appraisal or other evidence of the market value of the property, shall be fully disclosed by the city council at the public hearing. Any resident of the city shall be given an opportunity to present written or oral testimony at the hearing. So those are the items that need to be discussed during this public hearing. And also you're going to want to state that the property is surplus and no longer needed by the city, and that the notice requirements have been met. So with that, you can go ahead with the staff report and discussion of the terms of the sale.
Thank you. So I don't know if David Rubino wants to come on in now.
Oh,
There you are. Hi,
Yeah.
Ashley.
hello.
And then you can see.
There we go.
David.
Same here. Mr. Mayor, council. So general terms and conditions, I was provided with an appraisal of the property, which indicated that it had a market value of approximately $5.13 million, I believe. But also noted that there was going to be a need for significant repair of many of the structures and it was estimated that repair was going to be somewhere in the 7.5 or north value, but the value of the property was appraised at about 5.13, which is higher than obviously what the city paid for the property back in 2015. Under the general terms and conditions of the proposed sale, Arcadia Paper Mills LLC, which is an Oregon limited liability company, will purchase the property for $7.5 million. The terms of the payment will be that they will pay $3.5 million upon closing. That will include monies that have already been put into escrow. And then there will be a note carried by the city, backed up by a deed of trust. The note will be in the amount of $4.32 million, with the first payment being due on that note December 31st of 2025. So the note will be issued and effective upon closing, but there'll be effectively a 1-year moratorium on any payments. Payments are then due over a 60-month cycle at 8% interest to the city. And upon completion of payments, the property will then be owned outright by the purchaser, Arcadia Paper Mills LLC. They also are taking on, under the terms of the indemnity, in terms of the purchase and sale agreement, they are also acquiring a variety of personal property and intangible property that remains. That's identified in the various exhibits to the document. There will be a boundary line adjustment, as was discussed earlier. There is also an environmental indemnity that runs in favor of the city. And as part of the agreement, the city is also going to be looking to use reasonable efforts to get the indemnity it has from Boise to be assigned over to the purchaser. And as long as reasonable commercial efforts are used to do that, whether it's accomplished or not, it will not be a default action on the part of the city. So, otherwise, it is I would say a somewhat typical purchase and sale agreement. But those are the key terms, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody on the council may have.
I have one simple question. When I heard Ashley say we have to declare it a surplus property, I don't know what technically we have to do there, David, so I'm asking for direction on that.
Thank you, Mayor. You just have to say that the property is no longer needed by the city.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the resolution 2020 does do that.
Yeah.
True, and-
All right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Resolution 2020 does, but it's good to make that statement also in by the city council. So as you're discussing it, just to confirm that it's not a property that's needed by the city.
Just so everybody, anybody listening out there, this is a property that is not needed by the city.
Mr. Mayor and Council, there's one other term that I think is notable within the purchase and sale agreement. Obviously, when you make paper, you need a significant quantity of water. And one of the arrangements is that the city is willing to allocate up to 50% of its water allocation to the mill for the mill operations and for the maintenance and use of the fire suppression system that exists at the property. So the mill will also take on the obligations of maintaining the clarifier system. It's their expectation that they'll probably be using it for the first 5 years. They do expect to construct a new one, but during that time, they will otherwise be the ones required to maintain and operate the clarify system and to indemnify the city for any violations of the NPDES permit that may come out of the operations of the clarifier system. So I apologize, I omitted those two terms, but I think they are fairly notable and were worth mentioning for the council.
Yep. Any other
I've got a question on the due diligence period, after the PSA is signed. Is that start running the due diligence period, or has any of that been done?
Well, the due diligence period officially begins upon execution of the PSA, but it is my understanding that the documents for the due diligence have already been provided to the purchaser. And my understanding is the purchasers and their consultants are beginning to go through that. But John, you may be able to answer that question a little more specifically than I can.
No, that is accurate. We've given them everything they've asked for, so.
So we've given them a lot of information that they've asked for. Hopefully we can get it done, closed sooner than.
Well, I
90
was
days.
reading this, it's like 90 days with another 60 days and
Yeah.
we're just hoping not to kick it down the road.
Yep. I hear you, Russ.
And then my only other question, the Office Max indemnity.
The Office Max indemnity, David, you want to speak a little bit on that? Because that's kind of your wheelhouse.
Yeah, so, the city has an indemnity from Office Max. When they purchase the property, the indemnity extends for a 50-year period from the prior close back in 2015. The indemnity itself is assignable, but it can only be assigned with the written consent of Office Max. So the city is required to use its best efforts to obtain such an assignment in favor of Arcadia Paper Mills LLC. So then upon execution of the PSA, that would be one of the activities the city will have to engage in, which is to reach out to Office Max and to hopefully get their approval and written consent to transfer the indemnity obligation that they have towards the city to the purchaser of the property.
Is that for a specific area? Is the other area also covered? Does it split the agreement up?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, John, you may be able to help a little bit here. I mean, it covers the portions of the property that the city acquired from originally Boise, Cascade, but John, you may be able to provide a little bit better clarity.
City's acquisition, we were very specific about not doing any of the in-water rights that Boise has, and they're actually doing a cleanup in the in-water piece. So we were only took the uplands, the 204 acres of uplands.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a mill site is the definition.
Okay.
So all 200.
It's not just the 35 acres.
And it's for 50 year.
Right.
50
Not
year
just the
limit.
site they're talking about, it's the
Right, it's the
whole.
whole site.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, and it should also be understood that the indemnity, the agreement we need to get from Office Max will only cover that portion of the property that the purchaser is buying. The remainder of the indemnity would still stay with the city for whatever property is otherwise not part of this acquisition
Thank
and
you.
is otherwise
That's-
covered by the indemnity.
Good question, Russ.
Are there any potential issues with getting that indemnity switched from city to Project Arcadia?
Can't predict the future, but
Just don't ask the question.
We won't know until we try. I can't imagine that there should be that much. Probably one of the more difficult issues is actually locating the appropriate individual within Office Max to discuss this.
In a minute. So any other questions from council? Any other things that we need to cover? I think we've covered all that because I'm gonna open it up for public comment. And if you'd like to come up and make a comment or ask a question, now would be the time to come on up. State your name for the record and then so would like to come up. Yep.
Craig Allen, I'm the project manager for Project Arcadia. One of the issues I just want to cover that I didn't think was covered necessarily appropriately by your attorney is that during the 5-year period that the note is being paid, the Office Max indemnity should be in place with the city because the city retains the title to the property. So that during that period of time, that's going to have to be addressed as well. And that's the only thing that I heard that I had any concern about, that we should
Sure.
make sure that everybody was aware of as they deal with that.
Sense.
I see David's writing notes, so that's good. Oh, got one coming up behind you. Another Steve.
I just try to keep moving. Steve Topaz here, some questions. First question, to the attorneys, do you represent the council or the city administration? I asked that question once before of your firm and they did not answer. Ashley, who do you represent? The city or the council?
I represent the city of St. Helens.
Okay,
But
And you-
but this is not a discussion, so just continue your comments.
David, you represent the city or the council?
Represent the city of St. Helens.
Thank you. Okay. There are no council minutes that show the mill property is declared surplus. In fact, we haven't had minutes for a long while. Typically, as I understand it, when the council declares surplus, there has to be a full description. And from what we've gotten today, there's not a full accurate description. We've gotten a picture from the tax reports, but how many pieces of equipment, so on, was very much, in fact, it's kind of mysterious where everything is solid already. Okay, and the next part is after property is declared surplus, there's supposed to be a public meeting scheduled. Since we haven't
That's what this is.
scheduled a surplus meeting yet,
That's what this is.
we can't really have a scheduled meeting. And that's supposed to be within 5 days. We've had 3 days since it was announced Friday. Saturday and Sunday are not work or legal days, at least in most states. Okay, we've got an appraisal that was done in April, but has not been made public and was not indicated in the description that we're having this meeting today. There was a appraisal. Okay. And we assume that this sale includes buildings, equipment, etc. Now, the fact that DEQ has been on this site, there has been a ruling on what has to be done in the water. There's also the DEQ getting ready to do that on the land. According to DEQ's rules, where they decided on certain remediation, they're supposed to have a face-to-face with the buyer. Have the buyer had a face-to-face with DEQ? I'm more worried about procedure here. I think the mill ought to be sold. Okay, now we have water rights in writing. Have we established exactly how much we're attaching to this property and how much we're attaching to ourselves? Now, we also have this sewer pond, the lagoon. Do we have written evidence that, or an agreement right now that they'll be able to use that and what the price of that use is? Because we could vote, or the city could vote not to allow them to use it. We also have a problem, or had a problem, and has the prospective buyer been informed that there's been contamination from the pot farm into the water operational system of the mill? That was done, I found that out when I was thinking. So that was one of the things, again, in writing, do they know that? I'm sure people know about it. And does the city, the seller, plan to eliminate, or I should say, who has got the problem of eliminating the contamination after the sale? Thank you.
Hey, please say your name for the record.
Stephen Toskey, citizen of St. Helens. I very much support this project. And I hope this hearing is just a first formal step in a long relationship between Arcadia Paper Mills LLC and the city of St. Helens. Thank you, City Council, Mayor Scholl, and City Administrator John Walsh for including in the public notice regarding this complex and important transaction, the nearly completed initial terms and conditions of the sale. I was able to go over the document. It appears to me to be a fair transaction for all sides, with Arcadia paying significant money down and the city taking back a note with commercial interest rate appropriate for the market. As a citizen, I encourage the city to continue to hone the agreement to assure complete understanding of the parties and the public to avoid all future misunderstandings. This evening, I'd just like to make a few comments concerning the water supply agreement. First, it is clear the parties have agreed that a separate water supply agreement will be executed, pursuant to which the city agrees that Arcadia may use up to 20 million gallons of waters per day of the city's owned water supply. Arcadia agrees to maintain the current water supply system and later agrees to build its own. The water supply agreement, as it is being finalized, should make clear that the city agrees that Arcadia may use is limited for use for fire suppression and quote process water for the property, which is currently the words in the agreement, which may need some clarification. The deed conveying the property to the buyer should specifically exclude from conveyance and reserve to sellers all water rights from the sale of the property. Since the city does not intend to convey any water rights that attach to the land, if any there are, therefore the deed should specifically reserve them to itself in the deed. And I did not copy the deed, draft deed in the document, so I wasn't able to see whether that's in there or not. Arcadia's rights to the water will be spelled out in the water supply agreement. And potentially there should be considerations about terminating the water supply agreement in the event the situation with the business changes. I also would advise that if the attorneys that are working for the city do not have an attorney that specializes in water law, an attorney specializing in water law be retained by the city and act alongside Jordan Ramis to ensure clarity of the agreement as it pertains to water rights. Water law is a very specialized area of the law, and we are talking about a significant amount of water and a very valuable holding of the city. Regarding financing, the interest rate appears appropriate for the time. Sometimes in commercial transaction, there is a prepayment penalty. In my opinion, the city should not include a prepayment penalty in its financing arrangements with Arcadia. First, this is a transaction between a government and a business. Our city will reap long-term rewards from Arcadia's presence on many different levels. If Arcadia is able to secure more favorable long-term financing, that will help its bottom line. And if the load is paid off early, the city will probably be able to find a place for the overflow of the budget. I'll end by thanking Arcadia Paper Mills LLC for its efforts to make this significant and important investment in the city of St. Helens. Hopefully Arcadia will find a long-term home here in St. Helens. May it succeed and profit in its venture. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard one thing there. I just wanted to express that I heard. Everything was good. Thank you. Thank you for.
That's good.
Yes.
Very good. And the communication was good.
And the water rights are owned by the city. And that's the way it's identified in the purchase sale agreement, and that they have the ability to use half of it. The city will completely own that. So and it's not something we're just giving away. That's something that we actually have water rights, current water rights to. I don't think we can look into it. And David Rubino, could you speak a little bit more on that? Just the water rights that we are going to own that, reassure the community.
Yeah, the way the agreement is structured is that the city does not relinquish or give away any ownership to the water rights themselves. The city has agreed to provide up to 50% of the allocation those water rights provide. And again, we stuck with a percentage rather than a specific gallon amount for the very reason that if for some reason in the future there is a reduction in the water allocation, it's still that risk goes along with the mill. It's not expected that will ever occur. It has not occurred in the decades that I've looked at the water records. But nonetheless, the city, in our view, is protected. And the rights themselves will always be retained and owned by the city under this agreement.
Sure. And then I just wanted to cover another comment, earlier, not from Mr. Toski, but from Mr. Topaz, that this is of the public hearing for the surplus property today. Right now, what we're doing, so. Our attorney clearly explained that, and I said that again, we do not feel that we need the property anymore, so we're declaring it as surplus property. I'll say it again. Any other public comment?
Steve Carlstrom, former manager of number 3 paper machine at the site. It's really exciting project, and I just want the council to rest assured that currently I work for a company called Ecolab. We consider ourselves the world's water company. So we stand ready to bring all of the expertise at our disposal to help these folks manage and utilize their water and their processes as efficiently as we possibly can.
Excellent, thank you. Glad you're here. You brought out some heavy hitters. Anybody else like to speak?
Brady Freeheim. I also am in favor of this sale. It will be great for our community if it happens. I am concerned, though, that it demonstrates pretty clearly what an acre is worth. And I'd like to know why we're selling this above market value at the appraised value when the property that you're selling on Millard Road, you're selling for a fraction of that cost per acre. And that bothers me. So it tells me that an acre is worth about $214,000. We're selling it for about half that on Millard Road, and that does not seem correct. I think that appraisal on that sale was way low, or you're ripping these people off. So either way, it's not consistent, and I think that should be addressed. I do have a concern about the cleanup of Office Max and what happens if they don't agree to it. I think that should be addressed. Hopefully that won't be a problem, but what happens if they say no? And I think that the Arcadia needs to be aware of how much damage and items have been stolen from the property due to lack of security done by the city. I know that it's been broken into and items removed at least 3 times, maybe 4. And that's a concern for me, and I hope that they're aware of that and have had a chance to look at so they know what they're buying. I do have a little bit of issue that you're declaring the just now, this property surplus, when in fact it was surplus when you bought it. So it seems like a little bit of a scam. You didn't need it when you bought it. We knew it was surplus when you bought it. So that's a little irritating to me that you bought it, you knew it was surplus, it's still surplus. Yeah. I also am concerned that part of the issue with Cascades leaving was that the city wouldn't sell them the property. They wanted to buy the property. And for some reason at that time, you didn't. I hope there's no legal ramifications with that, because now you're apparently willing to sell it. And for God's sakes, please make sure that you do this contract correctly, because you've had a horrible track record of trying to sell property and not done it correctly. So please do what, I guess that's maybe your attorneys, please make sure it's done legally and correctly so we don't have multiple lawsuits regarding this sale.
Again, I'm gonna comment on one thing I just heard, that Cascade Tissue never wanted to buy that property from us, period. I never, ever was aware of that. John Walsh, my ears, they loved their lease of 100 or 300,000 a year that they had inherited from Boise, that we inherited from Boise when we bought the property. And there was no talk of them wanting to buy the property. So I just want to clarify that for the record, that we did not drive Cascade Tissue out of here. Cascade Tissue left because it was not feasible for them to be the only West Coast operation plant, according to what's his name? John David, the president, that it's just was the sign of the times. So other public comment. I see Paul Vogel back there from CSET, and I want to call him up just to kind of, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Paul, but you're here and you represent Columbia County. And
It's unusual for someone to actually give me the opportunity. Willingly.
You set a timer for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then cut it in half. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I didn't want to miss this meeting. I've had the benefit of meeting with the project team and also with the city, introducing them to the state with Business Oregon, talking through some of the opportunities, opening some pathways to resources they may like to take advantage of. In a pretty significant job creation venture in a, I would call it repurposing. It's not really repurposing, it's reactivating the original purpose of this mill. There's a lot of interest in this. There was a lot of skepticism about this proposal at the beginning because of the circumstances of Cascades leaving. Why would the market look any different to this company than it did to Cascades? And the reason is this company actually is in the market. This company has been a customer of this plant for decades. They know that segment of the market. What they need is supply. They have the ability to move the product and buy the product and move the product. And now they have the opportunity to become their own supplier. It's significant that they are in a position to make this investment. It's not for the faint of heart. It's more than you'll find in the cushions of your couch. But it takes investment like that to turn something like this around. It also takes knowledge and clear-eyed experience, and the fact that they have people involved in this project that haven't just worked at the mill, haven't just been in the mill, have actually run the mill and have personal relationships with machines 1, 2, and 3. They put together a good team. They've taken their time. They've done due diligence. We've talked with them about brownfields, some opportunities there. Those things will move down the road. But they, as I say, the property was surplus when you got it. It's surplus now. The city is not in a position to run a mill. An alternative use or waiting for an alternative use means tearing down the mill. And that's probably a 5-year process in itself. If you look down to Newburgh and some of the other communities where they've taken down mills, it's a bit of a unicorn, the opportunity to restart a mill. It would be tough to recruit someone to do that. They just happen to know where the place was because they've been a customer. And so they've done their due diligence. The city's been doing its due diligence. We think there's great opportunity to do something that really is a legacy activity in this community. And we're happy to assist in whatever way we can with this going forward. We're not in a position to tell the city council what to do one way or the other. This is a private transaction with a public entity. And we would urge your positive and favorable consideration of this as an opportunity that doesn't come along very often. We're talking to 6 companies right now for sites within the county. None of them are forest products. None of them are paper related. There's not a lot of activity there. This is something that you do because you have surgical knowledge of the industry. And so we're just happy to say we've been involved in discussions. We're happy to have more discussions and do whatever we can to help open pathways for both the city on its side and also Project Arcadia.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. I mean, you hit the supply piece that this company Arcadia was buying from Cascade. They're going to use right now just what they have, 100% of the white paper, 30% of the brown paper, and potentially a lot more than that because they want to grow.
It's a pretty unique way to cut out the middleman.
Yes, it is. So when I found that out, it made more. Toilet paper and paper towels are always going to need them. They're always going to have those for sanitary purposes. So it's a great market, great niche. So
And a good team.
yeah, really good teams. Yeah,
Thank you.
pleasure meeting them. So and the A team out here.
Everybody's done, I'll make.
Okay. So anybody else in the room before I go to Zoom? I see I have Greg Gilbert. Anybody else here? Nope. Okay, Greg, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Council, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thanks for the time. This is Greg Gilbert. Is the Arcadia Paper Mills representing First Quality, and are they planning to install their new machines at this location? Or so we won't have operations until 2027?
No, they are going to be, yeah,
Say don't talk about it.
this is just Project Arcadia and they're buying the mill.
And we're respecting their privacy.
Okay, can you confirm when we would expect new jobs to be actioned?
Well, 90 days, I see after their due diligence, they're gonna be looking for some employees to start looking at machineries, but those are gonna be more machinists and electricians and stuff like that. So, probably looking at about, I'm guessing, 6 months out.
Okay.
Yep. So if you're looking for a job, be watching for the advertisement coming up in 6 months, so. Anybody else on Zoom, Lisa?
No one else has their hand up.
Okay.
That's fishy.
Okay, Craig, I'm gonna have you come on up and.
Craig Allen, Project Arcadia again. I just want to address a few of the comments I've heard. The transaction between the city and Project Arcadia has been ongoing since February of this year. There's been plenty of transparency on both parties' side. So there's nothing of concern there. As far as how we proceed with this, the next 90 days is our due diligence period. If you choose to accept the purchase sale agreement today, there is a 60-day 60-day extension for an additional fee if we choose to exercise that. We plan to employ and start the number 2 paper machine up as soon as possible. And we anticipate that being somewhere around 60 family wage rate jobs consistent with the industry in this area. We're not doing other things. The other thing I heard of concern about the previous sale of the mill to the city, I believe that Cascades actually had an opportunity to buy the mill at the time that the city decided to purchase a mill, and Cascades passed on purchasing the mill directly from Boise. And the city made that choice. With regards to water rights, we recognize that the city currently holds 40 million gallons a day of water rights from the river that is decades old, as has been discussed, and has not been curtailed. And our agreement is for 50%. If in the future there is a curtailment, then we suffer the same curtailment as the city.
Sure.
Those are some of the unanswered questions I think that I heard come up today, and we really appreciate the city council and the mayor's time, and Mr. Walsh's time, and the attorney's time, and doing all of this. We hope for a favorable outcome tonight. So thank you very much.
I just want to acknowledge Craig, that you are familiar, you're a plant manager here, and you heard about it and you helped facilitate a lot of this, you and Ron. But just want to,
At the time that we got involved, there were at least 3 entities that came through this facility and said they just would scrap the facility. And we came here and we said we wanted to run the
That's right.
facility. And we definitely want to run this facility, and we believe very much so that it's a very possible future. for the gentleman that's on Zoom know, this does not have anything to do with First Quality.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a group of investors that are coming together to purchase this mill, operate this mill. Our future plans include converting on-site. So we have
I was hoping you'd.
we have quite an aggressive growth. We do potentially, we have two different types of paper making technology that we will probably introduce at the mill in the future as we're successful with this project.
Yeah, so I mean, this thing could grow into, I mean, well over 250 jobs.
We're per machine and stuff. Right now, we're looking at once we're running both machines, we're looking at over 100 jobs. And like I said, we're not looking to short to market or try, and this is all domestic. This is not foreign. And we recognize the value of quality employees, and we recognize the pay associated with that type of employment in this area. And that's the way we are going to approach this project. And we're going to spend the next 90 days doing due diligence. And John has been kind enough to fill my computer full of gigabytes of data I have to review over the next few weeks. So we are well into our due diligence. We're ready to move forward with it. So
excellent.
Thank you very much for your time, and let's see what you have to say.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close this public hearing. Okay, and now we are gonna come back out of reconvene our special session. And we're gonna go into deliberations on what we've heard and talked about here. This is a really good project. Gonna bring back a couple, 100 jobs here real soon, potentially more with some repurposing, is what I heard. And good group of guys that know what they're looking at down there, have run this before, and I see it as a win-win for everybody. It's a fair price, 7.5 million on a 5.13, is that right?
Appraisal, yeah.
Yeah, appraisal. So. Anybody else like to talk about?
Well, I think also the appraisal said that it would take about $7.8 million to bring the buildings back into saleability. And so I think Arcadia is taking on a huge chunk of responsibility. They obviously see the virtue here. They've got employees standing by for sure.
Yeah.
I walked through with several of the other people that were looking at the mill, and they were foreign companies that said they would start the mill up, but they were really concerned about sending crews over, filling containers and shipping them overseas with all the scrap metal. And that just, this is so black and white. It's just like, this is the way to go.
Yep.
Because it's helping the community and bringing something that's still viable back to the market. And they're going to be good stewards. Everything I've seen, they're going to be good stewards. And we need to get out of the landlord business because we're not good at it. People come and rob us and everything. So I think what they're taking on is, I don't think you could ask for anything better.
Well said, it's a legacy, like Paul Vogel had said, legacy to our area, so.
I agree with everything both of you have said. I said to Craig when the discussions first said, this is like a perfect fit as far as I'm concerned. And you mentioned it being a win-win. I don't know how else this could possibly, how a better situation could possibly occur at this time. It just seems like the right fit for everybody.
I just want to express that Project Arcadia has been very respectful and patient all along, because I know the process in the beginning was a little bit bumpy. So I thank you guys for letting us do our ethical thing and seeing, other projects that were ahead of that through to make sure we were doing what's best for the city of St. Helens. Yeah. And I feel very confident that this is a wonderful opportunity for the city. And I am happy that I get to be a part of it while I'm on the council, bringing jobs and industry back to our town. Maybe we'll be Paycheck City again. So I'm very excited. Welcome.
Just echo everything that's been said. I couldn't think of a better thing to happen to that site. A better group of individuals to be a part of it. It's been a pleasure working with you and getting to know you all better. And just on site visits to the mill, it's obvious that you have an interest, that you know the mill, you know the site, and you know what it takes to get it going again. And I think it'll be a great thing for the city. I would love to see it here a couple of years. We've got its 100th anniversary coming up, and I'd love to see it go in full force again and have a mill that our city can be proud of.
Right?
27, I think the first
27.
paper came off the roll, so, yeah. So that's your challenge.
Brandon's our historian, so that's, you heard the challenge.
No, I think it's gonna be a great thing and get some people in our community back to work and looking forward to it.
John?
It's all the reasons good. It's really good for our community to get this back on the rolls. Back on the tax rolls, utility revenue, tax revenue, jobs across the spectrum. Good project. So looking forward to working with them.
Well, we had the pleasure to meet the investors behind Project Arcadia, and this seemed like a good group that just wants to do it because they need the product and they can. That's what we heard. You know, so, and they got a good A team that's here tonight. I mean, I'm just looking at Rory out there, Craig Allen, Ron Hoteling. I know I've been getting lots of phone calls. I've been directing towards you too, Craig Allen, but I've been directing them towards Ron Hoteling. People who are eager and would like the opportunity to help out any way they could, because that mill fed them for a lot of years. It treated us all well for a lot of years. Just so you know what that mill meant. I mean, over 600 employees at one time, 1,000 total with all the subcontractors. We had the veneer plant down here that had about 100 employees. We had Stimson Lumber, which was 200 employees, Friesen Lumber. And then we had Owens Corning or Armstrong, which was another 200 plus employees. We didn't want as kids in the 80s. The city was flush and all that's gone. The wind industry is completely wiped out. Except for we're always gonna have to go number 2 and we're always gonna have to wash our hands after we're done. So let's get it done.
I'm gonna add that to the list of things you said on public record.
Well, it's cold hard fact.
What?
It is a cold hard fact. Every time, so.
All right, all right.
All right. Yep. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go on with the resolution. And John, do we need to do some paperwork?
Yeah,
or
we
some
wanna check-
clarification on
Check in with Ashley on there. You have two here. You have resolution 2020, which is a resolution that there's city-owned properties surplus and authorizes its sale.
Which allows John to do that,
Yeah,
but I'm on the,
then there's the purchase and sale agreement, which is, I think actually may weigh in here to see if that specifically we want to talk, that has the mayor's signature on that, so.
yeah. So Ashley,
Yes.
did you catch all that?
Was there a question? I think that the next steps would be for someone to make a motion to approve the resolution, and someone to second that motion. But I didn't hear, was there a
Well,
question?
I guess because the resolution allows the authority of the city administrator to sign that, the authorization, but I'm actually the signature on the sale agreement,
Purchase and sale agreement.
purchase and sale agreement.
Can you remind
That's
me what in the past for purchase and sale agreements, for example, the property in June, who was the signatory on that?
The mayor.
Yep.
Okay, so then you can amend the resolution to authorize the mayor to sign the purchase and sale agreement. So when you make a motion to approve the resolution, you would say as amended for the mayor to sign the agreement.
It doesn't say anything in the resolution
It doesn't say, yeah, it doesn't say anything specifically in this resolution.
about who signs.
Okay, you can still make that motion.
I will make that clarification. Okay, so
Okay.
resolution number 2020, a resolution of the city council of St. Helens, Oregon, declaring city-owned properties at 1300 Castor Road, tax account numbers 13249 and 13215 as surplus and authorizing the sale of the properties in compliance with ORS 221.725 with the mayor as the signature.
Make a motion to adopt and approve resolution number 2020 as read and with the mayor's signature.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2020. Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So. With that, yep. Look forward to the mill putting out some steam.
All right, gotta go back.
You are adjourned.
There's one for the sale. That's all wrapped up.
Yep, that's all wrapped up.
And you're